What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 80. I am your host, Marcus, and today we've got a bunch to talk about, and pretty excited to get to this because it's like some administrative stuff that we've got to get to this week. Like, we're going to cover a new employee that's coming in. Their leadership positions have moved around a little bit. We're going to have Ryan, Eve, James, and also Jami come in. And we've never had Jami before, so I'm really excited to talk to her and get to know who she is, what her position is, and everything. Jami Bahle. And then, of course, Ryan Holm, James Fonda, Eve Essary will join us as well. We'll talk a little bit about the structure there. And then following that, we want to continue our Hurricane Helene coverage as the aftermath continues to unfold. And as we're recording this on the 8th of October, we've got another hurricane, Hurricane Milton, forming in the Gulf of Mexico right now. So we're going to bring on Thad McBride, first of his name, from Augusta, Georgia. He's an H&M driver. And we're also going to bring in Lindsay Goodin, who's filling in as Thad's dispatcher right now. And we're going to talk to them about the struggles and the things that they've been going through and the things that they've been seeing. Thad, being from Augusta, has a great picture to give us of what he's seeing, how he's helping his family, what the roads are like in that area. It's a really great interview. And then towards the end of the episode, Denny has put together a pretty extensive list of winter driving preparedness items to keep on the truck. And not only does he have a whole list of things to keep on the truck to tell you about, but he's also got a list of things to do after you get your truck all taken care of. You've got all the supplies you need. You're good to go. You're ready to set out. Denny has some really good advice for thinking about that trip when you're going to be dealing with inclement weather. So really good episode here. A lot of things to get to. It's going to run just a little bit longer than normal, but we're okay with that because we're hitting all the bases here. We're talking administrative stuff. We're getting that out of the way, getting you introduced to Jami. And then, Thad, Lindsay will give us the report, basically. Hey, this is what it's like in the weeds. Denny will give us some really good advice towards the end of the episode. I like that. It feels like a complete breakfast. Do you remember, like, they used to say that Cinnamon Toast Crunch is part of this complete breakfast, and then they would show you a little tiny bowl of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, like an 18-ounce glass of milk, 7 oranges, 6 bananas, and 5 pineapple slices, and then, your Flintstone vitamins. That was the complete breakfast. Well, today we kind of brought you like the complete breakfast of a podcast episode. If the new leadership positions is the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Thad and Lindsay's interview about Hurricane Helene is kind of the pineapples, the bananas, and the oranges there. And then Denny, I mean, have you ever seen anything that embodies a tall, cool 18-ounce glass of milk better than Denny? He's probably going to want to have a word with me for saying that, which just means it's time for me to get the hell out of the way and get to these interviews. Thank you for being here for episode 80 of the H&M Trucking Podcast. Excited for all this stuff we've got around the corner. Please don't forget to go check out podcast.hmtrucking.com. It's a fancy new webpage. It'll have everything you need to know about this episode up there as soon as it launches. But for now, let's talk about some new leadership positions.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
All right, next up here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, we have a very full house. Joining me, of course, as always, my co-host, Denny, who comes to us a little bit bruised up today. Denny, I know you can't see it if you're watching on the YouTube video, but there is a Band-Aid under his hat. I just want to make sure that your thoughts aren't all bungled up because you clearly took a shot to the head earlier today.
My thoughts are always a little bungled up. That's a nice way to put it.
All right, perfect. We got Denny, 100% Denny. Also joining us is a big group from the conference room at the H&M terminal. First up, of course, we have the Chief People Officer, which I believe is a slight adjustment to the title, Eve Essary. Welcome in, Eve. Thanks for being back.
Hey, Marcus, I'm excited to get you to say that title now correctly because the first several podcasts that we did with HR Manager did not go so great. So we'll see how this goes. I'm excited for you.
I'm glad you are, Eve, but you're not giving me near enough credit on how bad I can screw things up and how much. So just give me a chance Just give me a chance, all right? Also sitting in the room with Eve, we've got president of H&M Trucking, James Fonda. That's one that I never mess up. Thanks for being here, James.
Smart.
Okay, we'll go easy on you today, James, all right? Also in the room, we've got Chief Operations Officer Ryan Holm. Ryan, good to have you back. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
You're still saying that, and what is this, your third or fourth appearance? How many more do we have where you can keep that facade up, Ryan?
I think it's number 3, I think. Yeah, you're right.
Number 3?
Third one,
okay.
I think.
All right, as long as we keep it under 5, he'll still be excited to be here. And finally joining us is a new guest that we have not had on the podcast before. Her name is Jami Bahle, and she is the Chief Financial Officer. Jami, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Now, I kind of want to jump right in since you're the new blood in the room here. Tell us a little bit about your position and how you got to H&M.
Sure. As you mentioned, Chief Financial Officer. So, I'm overseeing all of our finance and accounting activities, as well as our IT-related functions. But my objective really here at H&M is to instill some different reporting and some controls and metrics to help our organization continue to grow and be successful in the future. I come to H&M from an agricultural background and a little bit of a manufacturing background. So although I haven't been in trucking directly before, they're kind of side-by-side types of industries where I think that I can bring a little bit of a different perspective to my role in the trucking industry based on my past experiences.
There's so much crossover between trucking and agriculture. I see it all the time. I mean, some of the podcasts that I do for other fleets have drivers that take time off so that they can go tend to their farms during harvest.
Wait a minute. You do other podcasts for other people? Marcus.
I wasn't supposed to tell Eve that. She was the only one that didn't know, Denny.
I'm loyal.
Yeah, you do have Denny rubber stamp.
Thanks, we appreciate you.
Okay.
Marcus, he's a duck fan. He's pretty flighty.
Thanks, James. Appreciate that from the peanut gallery there. I want to get us all on the same page here as to why we're here right now, because we do have a lot of voices in the room today. But Eve, first of all, I apologize for not telling you that, yes, I've done other podcasts in the past, but
Heartbroken.
I know. And what can I do to make it up to you?
I don't know. Ducks tickets, I guess.
Perfect. Next year.
That is actually something that we might be able to organize. So as long as you bring James and he's dressed in Iowa gear, then we can make that work. That might have crossed the line. That might have crossed the line. For those of you not watching on YouTube, that was a look that I just got from James. So, Eve, getting down to business here. We talked about this in one of our meetings. You said there's some changes to the organizational chart. Of course, we've met Jami, who is our new Chief Financial Officer. You have a new title as the Chief People Officer. What other changes can we look forward to here in the future for H&M?
Really, we're just trying to align our org chart and our structure to really reflect what we actually do. How do we actually work, and what does that look like? So just realigning some of the departments and things. So we have a base of people that are handling the majority of the executive level things, and then from there kind of flowing down into the managers and all of that. Just gives it a clear line of who you go to for what things, and everything then kind of aligns with that.
Okay, and I'm looking at that team as yourself, Ryan, Jami, and Dale, who's on the podcast quite frequently. So that's kind of your executive leadership, of course, and then including James in that as well.
Right, exactly.
Okay, and how is that kind of different from what we had before? Was there kind of a thought process? Obviously, I assume you guys have a plan for why you did this. Can you kind of talk me through that a little bit?
Really, it's just about making sure that the puzzle pieces are all going to fit together right. Everybody then has their division that they cover, that they handle. It's not one person or two people or anything that is handling everything. We're spreading that out so that we're able to handle more things, and our capacity is just really more aligned with where we're going.
Perfect. James, any thoughts from you, from the lead man here on the new structure and what it's going to do for the company going forward?
Well, the structure started about 5 or 6 years ago. So this has been a long work in progress from, I would say, just developing the base of the company and going up. It really is to give us a future that we can grow on. I've added trucks over the years, but you can't really, in the market's all right now. But, as we grow and continue to grow, we need a strong foundation. And so all the moves in the last 5 years have all been to build that foundation internally so that it has the capacity to be able to be successful going forward.
Ryan, you're a big part of that. Obviously, coming in Chief Operations Officer. Talk to me a little bit about that position now as you see it. And is there anything really going to change about your day-to-day? Anything that the drivers will notice? That's another thing that I really want to touch on is I guess from a driver's perspective, is there anything the drivers should be looking for as far as changes are concerned?
Well, first and foremost, I just want our drivers to know that I'm always available. Questions, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. The last year or so, I've spent majority of my time on the hopper side, got to know that team very well. Now I'm more involved in the vans right now. Just kind of moved my desk, sitting with that group over there, kind of learning the processes and procedures that are going on there on a daily basis, and really trying to get to know the drivers and the customers as well. So the van team has not had as much exposure to me. So as the drivers come through, please come in, say hello, introduce yourself. I would really appreciate that. And I just, again, want the drivers to know that I'm available when things come up. So to James's point is that foundation and what we're doing with this structure is scalability to grow and really push the company forward. So I'm excited about the opportunity to help with that.
Denny, as a former driver for H&M, I want to know what's bouncing around in your head right now as you kind of hear us talk about the change in structure here.
Doesn't seem like it would affect me as a driver. I mean, sounds like they're just adding people that help manage the money. And as long as the money keeps coming in, I'm good with that.
It's a good way to keep Denny happy.
Money's coming in and going out.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
He's a model employee. Just got to pay him. That's really the tall and the short of it with Denny. I've found that to be pretty effective.
Good strategy.
Well, listen, there is something, James, I do want to talk to you a little bit about something that obviously by the time this episode comes out, we're recording this on October 3rd, just for full transparency. By the time this episode comes out, this won't really be breaking news anymore, but the port strike is something that is on all of our minds. I'm sure it's something that you've been keeping a close eye on. Denny and I talked about it a bit in the last episode, but since we have you here, I'd like some of your thoughts on that. How do you think this affects H&M and also kind of zoomed out trucking in general in the very short term here as we get this thing figured out?
Well, it's not on the port strike, but you have the hurricane that took off at Southeast. I think you're going to have, for every week, every day that's shut down, it's a week delay of the ships being empty. So the last 2 weeks, they'll take about till January to clear up. And those ships will sit there probably a week until they decide to go to the West Coast, which then takes another week. So you're still looking at 2 weeks, even if that happens. It will bring back. The market can't get any worse than it already is, so we'll just leave it at that. And then, with this, at least it'll be a little backlog capacity going into the holiday season. So hopefully that sparks some sort of fire that we need. Then the projection of 160, 180 billion, and that will generate growth over the time too. So, and I think there's another hurricane that's falling right behind it. So
that's what I've heard.
Yeah, you're having some things that are going to cause some uphill battles for the short term, but it might spark what we need at some point.
Well, fingers crossed. I mean, you said it there really well. We can't take very many more lumps as far as the freight market's concerned at this point. We're kind of just beating a dead market. I mean, all the bad timing, okay, fine. It just means that Eve has to go Christmas shopping for my Christmas present a little bit earlier this year because I wouldn't want that to show up late, Eve. So I am part of the family officially. I've lied to you now about doing other podcasts. So I'm just like one of your kids at this point, right? I'm
I think there was confusion. I said I was going to add you to the Christmas card list, not the Christmas presents list. Different list.
Oh, he's planning on being there Christmas morning to open presents, man.
Yeah. I already got my union suit picked out. It's got a Christmas tree on the butt flap. It's great.
That is a mental picture I'm now going to have to prove.
Keep the flap up.
It's one of the things you learn early in broadcasting, Eve. They tell you, paint the picture. Paint the picture with words. I feel like I painted a pretty good picture there.
It's a picture, all right. I don't know about a pretty good picture, but it's a picture.
Hey, face for radio over here. I've heard that 1,000 times. So listen, we've talked a little bit about the new org structure. We talked about the disaster and, of course, the port strike. I want to leave some time here. I obviously don't want to keep you guys too long. I know you're all busy, but is there anything else that we need to cover here? I didn't know really how in-depth we wanted to get with this. But I mean, we've talked about how kind of, there's 4 people up at the top and everybody's available for all the employees to talk to. What else can we say about this new structure, Eve, to help the drivers understand it and know what's coming?
I really don't think that there's a lot on the driver's side that they're going to notice different, other than the addition of Jami. That's new. But otherwise, as far as the rest of us go, it's just kind of business as usual. We're just pushing forward. Again, the money comes in, the money goes out, right? And that's what we're doing. So, and I think that at their end, that's what they'll still see.
If they're in the office, though, I'd love to see them stop on by and introduce themselves. I'd love to meet, as many as possible. So don't be afraid to come on by and say hi.
There you go. And definitely take advantage of that because, new faces make her feel welcome. Drop by, bring your dog by. I know that sometimes the dogs get a little bit of a toe through the office there. I've seen that happen before. So, and Jami, I'm sorry. I feel like we didn't really get to talk to you very much. How about this, Jami? What's your favorite color?
Red.
Red, one of H&M's colors. That's why you hired her, isn't it, James?
Very well.
Yeah. That's it. 100%. Absolutely.
1 for 1.
All right. How about a question with a little more substance for our driving friends out there? Jami, favorite road trip you've ever been on? Where was it to?
Oh, wow. Well, I love the mountains. So any road trip that takes me through the mountains makes me extremely happy.
Okay. So pretty much the opposite of every driver.
True.
Yeah, especially as winter creeps in here.
Yeah. Right. Great timing on that one. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Kind of just like saying anywhere out of Nebraska too, right? Because I was in Nebraska and never saw a mountain. I don't think you guys have those out there.
No.
There's a couple of hills out west.
That's not
There's a couple of hills out west. You can't ever see them because there's so many people standing around them wanting to see the other hills in Nebraska. So
the cows that block the view.
All right. Well, Eve, James, Ryan, Jami, we appreciate the time. Thank you all so much for being here. Denny, do you have any final thoughts to leave these guys with before we let them go?
Well, by the time this airs, it may be nothing, but the big story on the news here in South Texas is all the stores are out of water and toilet paper. And I'm just shaking my head going, they don't import water and toilet paper. We make it right here in the United States.
I know. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the water again, but the toilet paper again, why are we back to this?
Right.
Right.
We learned nothing.
People are stupid.
If you think about it logically, my coffers that I established during COVID have just recently run out. So I've got to get another 4-year supply of toilet paper in case this whole thing happens again. I think maybe there's some similar people out there like me who, their warehouse finally ran dry. So they're just trying to resupply it. But it's a good point. I mean, we do manufacture that stuff here. You could always start thinking about manufacturing your own toilet paper, Denny. I mean, I know you're a woodworker. You got to have like a really sharp plane in there, something you could slice it really thin with.
Yeah, I don't want splinters there. Thank you much.
There's another picture for you, Eve. We'll let you get out of here on that one. James, Eve, Jami, Ryan, thank you all for being here. We'll be right back with more from the H&M Trucking Podcast.
Thanks, Marcus.
Bye, Marcus.
All right, Denny, we're continuing along with our Hurricane Helene coverage as best as we can here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. Now, Obviously, as we've said a few times before when we've touched on this news, we are going to be a bit delayed here because we record these a little while before you guys hear them. Just so everybody knows before we get moving, we are recording this on October 8th right now, so we're going to bring you the most up-to-date information that we can, and we've got two guests with us today, Denny, that are going to do just that. First off, I want to welcome H&M driver Thad McBride, the first of his name, from Augusta, Georgia. That's how he was introduced to me. That's how I'm introducing him to you. Thad, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We're doing great over here. We're excited to have you. Never had you on the show before, but in talking to you here just before we went on, we can tell that you're not only excited but prepared, and we're really happy to have you here, man.
Yeah, I'm feeling good too. I've been waiting for this.
Perfect. Well, we also want to welcome to the show Lindsay Goodin. Now, we were going to have Liz Kessel on the show here. She is actually Thad's normal dispatcher, but she's on vacation right now. So, Lindsay, you're doing us a huge favor by filling in. We really appreciate having you here as well.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Now, I want to start with you, Thad, because you're kind of, your boots on the ground out there, plus you're from Augusta, Georgia. So, in the aftermath of the hurricane, running around down in your neck of the woods, what have you been seeing? How's it looking out there?
Everything is a complete shambles because the thing is, Augusta, in our area, we've never been hit by a hurricane before. In Georgia, we have what's called the Barrier Islands. So any bad weather that hits Georgia, it always comes to a halt when you get to places like Savannah, Valdosta, around the coastal area. So anytime anything comes even near us, we'll get the wind, we'll get the rain, but we never get the full brunt of the weather. So we've never been prepared for this. Our infrastructure is not set up for something like this. So, of course, you still have people even right now that are just getting power yesterday, or some people have power, then it goes right back out, and the trees are all over everywhere in the middle of the road. The only place that was pretty much kind of sort of safe was the Augusta National. And of course, people are going to make sure they do their best to get that backing up and running as soon as possible.
Well, as an avid golfer myself, that I almost drove down there to lay underneath the trees so that they didn't hit any of those beautiful greens, because we all know that's a beautiful course down there, but it pales in comparison to the city of Augusta at large. And it sounds like it got hit pretty hard down there. I want to ask this right off the top, now that I hear what the devastation's actually like. Is your family okay? Are you okay?
Well, luckily for me, I was able to go ahead and send money home for all of my family members. I was able to get 2 generators. I got, I think, like 14 power banks. I was able to go and make sure everybody was able to communicate with each other. That was the main thing, communication, because everybody is super confused, because we never in life thought we would ever have any type of situation like this. And we're bearing with Georgia Power, we're bearing with the mayor, we're bearing with the city of Augusta and everybody, because there's no way we can expect them to be set up for something like this. Mm-hmm. Same thing like 10 years ago when we had the ice storm.
Yep, I do remember that.
We're not meant for that, we're not built for that. So all of this right now, it was like you got everybody talking, and all the doubters, we don't even doubt global warming no more. All right, you say it's real, we gonna believe it.
Yeah, especially when you catch weather that you're just never had to deal with before. Look, I get it.
Never.
If all of a sudden there was a tornado, which this actually did happen within the last 10 years out here in Oregon, we had a random tornado touch down and tear through one little rural town in the middle of our state. Just rip the path right through it. And you're right, the infrastructure is not prepared. The emergency services aren't prepared. They're all new to it as well. And I'm real glad to hear, Thad, that you were able to send some money home and get generators and power banks and things like that for your family. You mentioned something, that communication part of it is so important. That's paramount, just to be able to know that your family's okay or know what they're dealing with. And this is actually where I want to bring Lindsay in on the conversation here, because Lindsay, I imagine from your side of the fence, that communication is also really important to you, not only so that H&M can continue getting cargo where it needs to go, but also just for feeling like your team is in good shape and you've got their backs out there. what's the communication been like with your drivers that are down in that area of the country in the aftermath of the hurricane?
I was about to say, I could go ahead and answer that. I was down there.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come right back to you, Thad, and we'll have you answer that after Lindsay.
Yeah.
It's just been a little stressful on our end here in the office. Obviously, we're not on site to see what's happening, so we're having to rely heavily on what the drivers are out there telling us, what our customers are telling us, what the weather is stating is going to occur. So we just, like I said, just our biggest priority, obviously, is our driver safety and making sure our freight gets, to the location safely and in one piece. So, we've definitely had to put in route points for drivers to get around some of the areas, where there may be lines down, things like that. Yeah, I'm losing my thought again. You guys, how much I hate this thing.
No, it's all good. That's all really good. And in fact, I'm going to keep that in there because I want everybody to know that even though this is not her favorite thing to do, Lindsay's still happy to come on here and talk to us about this. We get it. Look, not everybody's like Denny and I and spent our entire professional career talking into a microphone. So don't worry about that, Lindsay. And you've already given us some great info there. So I'm going to kick it back to Thad real quick because Thad, you kind of wanted to chime in on and answer that question.
Yeah. When I was delivering loads to Mooresville, North Carolina, and I was supposed to take I-40, but I-40 ended up having a mudslide and half the road collapsed in North Carolina. The night before, I was supposed to go around there, and it was up in Tennessee, but the very next day it ended up raining. Next thing you know, that road is flooded. I had to take.
We're having some bad cell phone connections there, but I did hear a little bit of what Thad was saying there is basically that he needed to take I-40. There was a mudslide. He ended up in Tennessee the next day, but there was a washout on the other road that he was going to take that following day. So it's just, this is the game we're playing right now. And Denny, I want to go to you here for just a minute to get your thoughts as a former driver because I know you probably didn't ever deal with anything quite this severe, but I know that you did have to put up with this. And how frustrating is that, having to change your route? Not only you're trying to plan for it, and it's nothing you can plan for, but even when you do plan for it and you do think you're going to get around it, you get stiffed and you have to turn back around. I imagine you just want to pull your hair out on days like that.
Yeah, obviously. It's true. And I-40 was washed out. And it was closed for, I think, the better part of a year. I know it was at least 6 months. I-75, they had a rock slide, shut that down, in Tennessee, north of, anyway, it happens. And you just have to, you got to take a deep breath and deal with it. I mean, I know it's a nightmare. It just snowballs because something like this happens. Well, okay, you got to get in touch with your dispatcher. They got to get in touch with the load planner. Load planner's got to get in touch with the broker. Broker's got to get in touch with the client because everything's got to be changed. I mean, if it's just a small detour, yeah, I probably know an alternate route. I can get right around it. Just every interstate's got a U.S. highway that pretty much parallels it. But if it's something major like this, then yeah, you're not talking an extra hour. You're talking probably a day at least. And if you know it's happening, like if you were, say, in the Midwest, say you were in Des Moines picking up a trailer, you knew it was going to North Carolina, well, you can plan an alternate route. You can call your dispatcher, you say, hey, I know I-40's out in case they routed you that way. And you say, hey, how about I go West Virginia Turnpike and come down that way? Mm-hmm. But then you get down that way and you find out, oh, shit, I-26 is closed now too. So then you got to figure it out. You're going to have to cut over further, come in a different way. So knowing your alternate routes is always a good thing. I always advise drivers for that. Even if it's just a traffic jam, you had a wreck or something and traffic's backed up, you can cut over to that U.S. highway that parallels. Probably a lot of traffic's going to do that as well. A lot of them aren't, though. So if you know of it ahead of time, you know the route. And also, if you stay heads up, like, for instance, you stop for your 30-minute break, check that route ahead of you, see. Because wouldn't it suck to take your 30-minute break, pull back on the highway 5 miles down the road, it's stopped, when you could have taken 1 minute, probably not even that long, checked your route and went, oh, and you cut over to your alternate, go a few miles, come back to the interstate, you're still moving. You lost a little bit of time, but not much. So know those alternate routes and, keep dispatch informed. Stacy pretty much, well, of course, they know where you're doing because they got it on their computer. I know Stacy would look at her computer and go, he's at it again.
My next question here is going to be for you, Lindsay. And Lindsay, my question for you was, have you guys seen an influx yet of freight that's being basically dog-eared to head down to that area with the relief effort? Has there been a lot of that coming through yet at this point?
I have not seen that at all. I can tell you, as far as rates even getting out of the area, they've gone down with all of this, but I have not seen an influx yet at all.
Now, Thad, you were going to talk to us about kind of being boots on the ground. Your route got changed. That cost you a ton of hours. Go ahead and kind of continue with your story there, trying to get where you were headed.
Well, the thing is, I accepted the fact that I was going to be ready. I was fine with it. Couldn't call out, couldn't communicate, couldn't use the tablet. So it was a bit of a, and those moments when you can't communicate, that's when you gotta be extra careful. You know what I mean? Absolutely. You gotta be very vigilant, keep your eyes open and on everything. Because there was no signal, and I'm right here on the middle of an open highway, highly populated area. So it's like, well, what do I do? I had nothing. It was like being in the middle of Wyoming, like I am now.
How long were you without signal?
Oh, as soon as I hit 81, it was nothing. Then you'll get like a little piece, and then it'll go away again.
And that's just not enough to make all the phone calls that you need to make when you're stuck in a situation like that, I assume.
No phone calls, nothing on the tablet. You can do nothing. There was no signal for nothing. Towers were down.
Wow. Well, listen, I can tell you this much. We're really glad that you're safe and your family is safe, at least for the time being. I know you guys are kind of prepping for another one of these things as we speak right now. I think it's Hurricane Milton is building into what looks like a disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. How are you going to deal with that down in Augusta if that hits you guys again? Thad, what's the plan?
Well, so the thing is, actually, even before the before Helene hit, we saw an article saying that this hurricane will hit all counties in Georgia, and I promise to you, we all just looked over it. But right now, the next one's coming. We're even if it doesn't even come close to us, I don't know where it's going to go. We're going to make sure we're all getting all the supplies we need as far as food, water, gasoline, chainsaws to cut down the trees that still sitting on top of people's houses. We're getting everything that we're going to need to be more prepared this time.
That's good. That's good. And I'm sure that you, it's got to be nice to see the community come together because I've seen plenty of news coverage out of all of these communities that are affected. This is one of those times where it doesn't matter what your political mindset is. It doesn't matter who your sports team is. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. Everybody is locking arms and taking off after this recovery effort.
Yes. That's something that you'll always see, especially down in the South. When it's something like this going on, we all gonna come together. You got people coming from South Carolina and Atlanta, driving down to Augusta, bringing gas, bringing food, bringing blankets, pillows, and it's all being done simply over social media. People are just coming together saying, hey, I'm bringing this, I got this, I'm able to do this, who needs a babysitter, all kinds of things. So it's always warming when you see stuff like that.
Right. If
but that's how we are.
Yeah, well, and if we have to live through a tragedy for it, it's terrible, but it's always comforting to know that community is there to help. And that's, it sucks that you only see that after a tragedy, but at the same time, at least it's there. It could be a thing where everybody's looting and robbing and fighting rather than helping, and it could be even worse. So very glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. Lindsay, I want to bring you back in here because now that everybody's a little bit more familiar with the podcast and we had that Behind the Pod episode where we kind of introduced everybody to some of the other pieces that form our podcast board here, everybody met our president of our company, Jackson, who sits in there with you guys at the H&M office and kind of is a liaison to you for podcast. But He brought something up to me the other day, and I feel like I have to bring it up to you because you probably need to make fun of him a little bit. Tell me about this this hard 75 thing that you guys were getting off on. You guys are hard 75 is like a workout and diet plan, really intensive. Is that what it is? Fill me in here.
Okay, I'll tell you all about it. 75 hard is it's a 75-day challenge, and it's 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes each. One has to be outdoors. They have to be 3 to 4 hours apart. So that way you're not doing them back to back. It's clean eating, whatever diet you choose, no sugars, no alcohol. And then you drink a gallon of water a day, and you read 10 pages of a nonfiction book every day. Wow. And we all started this. There's probably a group of about 10 of us who started it on September 2nd. I seen Jackson the following Monday, asked him how it was going, and he told me, oh, yeah, it's going real good. It's going real good. I'm like, okay. James busted him out a couple of days later. He didn't even make it until Friday of that week where he had alcohol. So,
Yep, that's what he told me, too. And I was like, well, I'm definitely bringing it up because any chance we get on this podcast to jab Jackson a little bit, yeah, he washed right out. And I heard that you were just cruising on this. Like, this wasn't even tough for you. Is that true?
Yeah, I like to work out, so it's not a big thing. The no alcohol was the hardest part for me. So,
yeah, especially
we're doing it.
During football season, the no alcohol thing, I wouldn't stand a chance. I'd wash out. Well, I'd wash out for a lot of reasons. The working out twice a day, reading 10 pages of a book, all of these things would be very hard for me. But what do you think, Denny? You're a guy that likes to go on a run about 7 days a week. Could you get through 75 hard?
That's why I run, is so I can have my carbs and my alcohol.
What about you, Thad? Are you a gym rat at all? 75 hard sound like something you could do?
Man, look, you better give me a 22 hard or a 14 hard. I can't get 75. I'd be up at the top. Ain't no way.
That's way too many days. Way too many days.
I couldn't do it. If I was challenged to do it, I would be able to do it just because I'm hard-headed and stubborn when it comes to a challenge. But volunteering to do it, man, that felt like basic training all over again.
That's awesome, guys. Well, listen, I really appreciate you both coming on here to talk about this. I know that it's not the most exciting and fun thing to talk about, but hearing from 2 people that are involved very much with it every single day gives the rest of the drivers a chance to kind of understand, if it's something they're not dealing with, maybe they're Texas and out west, or maybe they're up north. They're just not getting their boots on the ground in this very heavily affected area. We really appreciate your guys' time. Thad, I want to give you the opportunity before we let you go. Any other thoughts that you have for any of the drivers that might be listening, or a message that you might want to deliver to any family or anything that might be listening before we let you go?
Yeah, definitely. Always, it's the same thing that we talked about earlier. Maintain communication and make sure you're checking on everybody. Don't just let your dispatcher or your homeboys be the only people that you talk to throughout the day, especially with this going on. And Hurricane Milton looming, you got to be vigilant. You have to be. That's the main thing. Because even like right now, I have a lot of old people in my family. Those are the main people that I've been trying to make sure I keep in contact with. Just to make sure, just in case they call me and say, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, or if I need to come home and help out for a couple of days. Because this is something that's new to all of us. Throughout Augusta's history, we've never seen this, never heard of this. The first time we had a tornado that we could think of was back when I was 16. Other than that, Augusta, we can get floods, you know what I mean? But that rarely happens too. We had a flood, the only flood I can remember is back in 96. Augusta geographically is shaped like a valley, so we're prone to having floods. We don't have them, but that's about the only thing that we could be ready for. Mm-hmm. But hurricane? Oh, no.
No way. Well, we really appreciate you coming on here, Thad, and keep maintaining that communication. We know you're keeping in touch with all your loved ones, and we just hope and pray for the absolute best here. I hope that Milton lays down on the job and just takes it easy on the entire area out there, because being all the way up here in the Pacific Northwest, all I can do is just let my heart hurt for you guys down there because I see what everybody's going through, and I've got no frame of reference, man. So it really helps me to talk to somebody like yourself that's going through it, and we just really appreciate the time here, Thad. All right, excuse me, Thad McBride, first of his name, from Augusta, Georgia. I got to make sure and give you that.
All right, hey, there you go.
Thanks for the time, my friend. And Lindsay, any final thoughts for us before we let you get back to it? I know you're busy.
Oh, no, just communicate. Communicate with your dispatchers. Let us know you have questions, concerns, issues that arise so that we can work through it and come up with, a resolve to it.
Well, we know that this isn't your favorite place to be, but we really appreciate you being here, Lindsay. Thank you for filling in for Liz for us today.
No problem. Thanks.
All right, Thad, take care of yourself out there. You stay safe and keep the shiny side up, all right, my friend?
Thank you. Y'all take care. Let's do this again sometime.
We'll do it for sure. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, y'all.
Great stuff there, hearing firsthand what it's like in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Thad, I have to say, Denny, he's got a great attitude about this for what he's going through. Tons of energy, seems ready to tackle this thing head on. You got to love hearing a driver that's going through this as we speak with his family and his job and everything, and still seems in such good graces. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's positive and upbeat and fun. He's the guy you'd like to go out and watch the game with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get Thad back on here at a later time because it's been a while since we've had somebody be that pumped up to come on the podcast and excited, especially in the face of tragedy here. So great guest there. And again, thanks to Lindsay for filling in for Liz while she's on vacation. Just in case you're wondering, I did send Liz an email on vacation. Thankfully, she had her out-of-office replies turned on, so she will not see that until she gets back. Liz, if you're listening to this in the future, I apologize for bugging you while you're probably on a beach or someplace comfortable. But we've got a little bit more here to talk about, Denny, because we're sitting here on October 8th, as we said. That means that winter driving is like right around the corner or already here for some of our drivers. And we thought it would be a good idea to go over some winter preparedness here at the end of this episode. And you've put together a list for us of things that you think will help drivers out be prepared. Talk to me about it from your standpoint. When you were driving, was this like a 1st of October thing when you would start thinking about adding winter things to the truck? Or was this something that you always had on the truck, just kept on it 365?
After I got stuck at Donner Pass for 3 days one time and only had a hoodie because I was snowed in, and the only thing they had at that little, I won't even call it a truck stop, it was a gas station with a few truck spots, and I was lucky to be able to park there and not be on the shoulder of the road. All they had was roller grill. Of course, I carried food on the truck, so that wasn't really an issue, but the clothing, from then on, I pretty much kept my stuff on the truck. But now's the time, if you haven't geared up, if you don't already keep that stuff, and everybody, you got your own list. But I'll just go ahead and, share mine for those who might not have thought of some of these items. You might want to add some items to it, but you need a windshield scraper of some sort. Because trying to get the windshield scraped with a credit card or your driver's license on a big truck is going to take you just a little bit of time.
Yeah, and it might ruin your cards.
Good idea to have a shovel. The one I carried was a camp shovel, the folding kind. You just need something in case you need to scoop. You don't want to be down there with a cup from the Loves trying to scoop. A basic toolkit, that's not a winter. That's all the time. Just basic, pliers, vice grips, screwdrivers, just the basic stuff. I'm not mechanical, so I didn't need a lot. I'm not going to fix the truck. I just may limp it to the next repair shop.
Right.
Snow chains, just make sure you've got them, but I'd say learn how to throw them, because I never intended to drive in those conditions, but I've had to put them on a couple of times, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
It took me forever. So, just take a few minutes and learn from somebody who knows. You might want to keep jumper cables. I don't know that they'd really come in handy, but they're not very big, don't take up a lot of space. Kitty litter, and or salt. Might help you grab traction if you need it.
Yeah.
Winter driving, I always kept at least a half a tank. Because if you show up somewhere and they've got a power outage and the pumps don't work, and that was where you were counting on, so keep that truck full. And H&M usually plans their fuel stops accordingly. They plan them about a half a tank. So
And
go ahead.
I also wanted to talk to you about the gelling of the fuel too, because as it gets really cold, can't that fuel gel up sometimes and makes it complicated? So if you keep your tank only above half full, you kind of stay away from dealing with that gelling issue a little bit too, don't you?
Well, yes, but that was the next item on my list, anti-gel.
Oh, okay.
Make sure you got plenty of that in the side.
I didn't even know that they made that.
Oh, yeah. And H&M has it at the shop, but you can buy it. But I will say that I had one truck in particular. It wasn't my last Volvo, but the one before. And it seemed like every time I used that anti-gel, I was stopping to get fuel filters changed. So
Oh, interesting.
that was just one truck out of all the ones I've driven, but that one gave me fits with it. But yeah, keep your anti-gel and antifreeze, which you should have antifreeze/coolant on all the time. Your heavy duty winter clothes, make sure you've got those. That would include a heavy coat. I always had waterproof boots because, that helps in the summer when you're splashing through a puddle, but also in the wintertime, if the snow is better than ankle deep, my feet aren't getting wet.
Yeah.
Warm gloves. You got your gloves you used to work on the truck, but I got them from Cabela's. They were these big, huge, they were actually mittens, big, huge, fluffy mittens that I could take 4 fingers off and I still do what I needed to do. And some kind of a hat, because you keep your head covered, it's going to help keep you warm. I would say have some kind of a battery-powered radio, like a backup radio, so if you do get stuck somewhere, you can catch forecasts and whatnot. Flashlights, and that's plural, because it sucks to only have one flashlight and all of a sudden that dude doesn't work. So have at least a couple of them and extra batteries for your flashlights.
And you know
and this
what?
one,
I might add to the flashlights, they're cheap and they're readily available. Buy a $5 crank flashlight too, just so you have it. If all your batteries and everything goes bad and you don't have a flashlight, if all you have to do is turn that little crank and get yourself a few minutes of light, it's worth the $5 you're going to spend on something like that. Continue. Sorry.
best flashlight I ever had was a Pelican, by the way. And I'm not paid for that endorsement. I used mag lights for years, and the mag light itself, the housing, everything was great except the button. I would wear out the button because I used it so much. I use it every single day because I usually started before dawn. So I'm out every day walking around the truck using that flashlight. I still have that Pelican light and it still works.
Wow.
Costs a little more, but it's worth it.
Well, the mag lights just double as a tire thumper or a cranium thumper if you happen to find yourself in such a situation. So
yeah, buddy.
Pelican, that's a good light.
Extra food and water, non-perishable. You know, keep stuff on the truck in case you get stuck. I say this all the time. You get stuck at a shipper and you wind up there for 8 hours instead of the 2 or 3 you planned on. Have something on the food to eat, but especially wintertime. Because what if you get stuck at that gas station at Donner Pass and all they've got's roller grill and you're tired of hot dogs, okay? So have some stuff on the truck, peanut butter, whatever. And don't forget extra for your dog or cats or whatever you keep on the truck with you. Make sure you got like an extra bag that's not open. That way, when you open that one, get another one. That way you've always got plenty for them too. And here's one that's not just winter, but always keep a first aid kit or basic first aid supplies. Like you see this.
Yeah,
around my house,
little battle scar right now.
It's not a project unless I bleed. Cell phone charger, and I don't mean the cord to plug in. I mean like the you can charge this thing up. I don't know what you call it, but then you plug your phone into it and it gets you a charge. That kind of thing, or extra battery.
Yep, they call those just a portable power bank for your cell phone.
That's it.
And
yeah, what he said.
They are like $20 or something like that. And Denny and I were talking about Disney World earlier before we were actually on the podcast, just kind of chatting about it in passing. If you're going on like long vacations or something like that, or you're going to be at a football game for 8 hours and you're going to be using your phone all the time, those portable power banks are an absolute lifesaver. I imagine for a truck driver who's always on the road, a portable power bank in the truck with you that's always charged and ready to go, man, that could save your bacon in some of these bad winter driving scenarios that drivers find themselves in.
Yep. And, if you do get caught in that you're stuck situation, conserve that phone. Turn it off.
Yeah.
The only thing left on that list was CB radio, and I kind of think you ought to have one anyway, but that's personal preference. That's my list of stuff I'd bring on the truck, and that's probably not everything, but that's sitting down over the period of a day or two and making notes. That's what I came up with. Now, here's my things to consider or think about. Keep in the back of your mind thoughts when winter driving's coming up. First of all, parking. When you're going to say stop for the day, your 10-hour break, park where you could stay warm. Instead of the parking area that maybe has a porta potty or a outhouse, at least a rest area that's got a lobby. Better off a truck stop or somewhere where if your truck craps out, you can go in and keep warm.
Right.
Because if it's 20 below, your truck, you can put every blanket you want on and you're going to get cold.
Yeah, you're in a metal box. I mean, yeah, it's insulated, but it's a metal box. It's going to be colder than hell in that thing within an hour.
So like I say, try to, at the very minimum, try to find a rest area that has like a lobby that you could go in the event you had to. I mean, we're talking about saving your life here.
Yeah.
Check the wind forecast. When you go to park, find out, okay, tonight the wind's going to be from the east to northeast. I mean, if it's going to change drastically, there's nothing you can do. The reason I say that is because if you'll park with your trailer behind you and the wind coming this way, you probably won't have to clean your windshield in the morning. Where the guys that are parked across from you are going to have to be out there for 10 or 15 minutes getting that windshield cleaned up.
I didn't even think about that. That's a really, really good little piece of advice there, Denny.
If the lot is iced over when you pull in or hard-packed snow, and you're parking for your long break, your 10, your 12-hour break, whatever. Go ahead and park, walk the dog, maybe go to the bathroom, come back. You kill 15 or 20 minutes, let your tires cool down, and then move it 6 inches or a foot.
Help
you're sitting there wondering why.
No,
because what happens, your tires are hot when you come in. They're hot. What they're going to do is they're going to make a divot in that ice or snow. And then in the morning, you're going to have trouble getting traction. If you just go ahead and move it a few minutes later, then you're on smooth, flat surface.
Wow, that's interesting. See, never would have thought of that. It's such a good point. I imagine pulling 80,000 pounds out of maybe, 2 or 3 inches worth of a rut from a dead stop on ice. It's not going to be easy. I mean, it doesn't sound like much there, but you're potentially saving yourself a long time working to get yourself out.
It's just little shit I've learned over all the years and miles. I always would assure this time of year, I would make sure that the heater units are at least a half a tank to 3/4 of a tank of fuel. And if you do know a storm's coming and it's going to be cold, put the anti-gel in that fuel tank too. But also, even if you're just picking up the trailer and you're carrying a dry haul, it doesn't have to be, freeze protected. Just crank it up and run it. Run it for 15 minutes or so while you're checking the trailer. Make sure that it works. That way you can report to him and go, hey, I don't have a problem with this because I'm just hauling seed or whatever, but this trailer needs to make it back to the yard so you can work on it. That way, somebody else or you are not going to get that trailer later on, have a freeze protect load, and it doesn't work. So, take a few extra minutes. Help out your other drivers. Yeah. Okay. Winter driving, pre-plan the entire trip. Say you're picking up in Story City and you're going to Pasco, Washington. Okay, that's going to take you a few days, couple of days at least. Don't just plan what you're going to do today. Plan how you're going to get from Des Moines all the way to Pasco. Check the forecast find out what it's going to be all along that way and adjust. Maybe today you want to drive a short day and let this frontal boundary pass, and then tomorrow you're really going to book it. You're going to try to do every bit of 600 miles or more tomorrow because you want to before the next front comes. But plan it that way. That way you don't get halfway there and go, oh shit, it's snowing. Oh damn, I got to pull over. And then you got to call dispatch and you got to reschedule and all this crap. Just plan it. And while you're planning the weather forecast, like I said, be ready to adjust your schedule. Maybe you don't like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it's a job. Okay.
It's not always going to go the way that you want it. And I will just add one caveat to that. You might also, after you make that specific trip from Story City to Pasco, go ahead and call your dispatcher and see if it's possible that they never send you to Pasco, Washington again. Go anyplace else. Kennewick, Yakima, Spokane. Just don't go to Pasco. But that's just my 2 cents, Denny. I know that's not worth anything. Sorry, I've been to Pasco. I didn't grow up that far away from it.
Best thing about Pasco is that
like
vegetable stand up the road where you can park overnight. They got a big old truck parking lot. Other than that, I totally agree with you.
Stay out of Pasco unless they're having a boat race. Those are fun.
We talked about this earlier, but plan alternate routes.
Yeah.
Figure out if this route's closed, you can go this way. You may be able to even take a different interstate if you know that, you can go south or whatever. Pre-plan where you'll stop and at least one backup just in case. Know where you're planning to stop for the day, but just in case you can't get there, plan one before that, plan one after that. Don't get there and go, crap, what am I going to do now? Park on the entrance ramp? Again, maybe you don't want to plan this much. Maybe you like flying by the seat of your pants. That's what caused me stress. That's why I over-plan. Mm-hmm. Also, find a way to let those close to you know your plans and where you stop for your break.
Yeah, that's really
I'm
big.
pretty sure the truck and the trailer still have the satellite thing, so H&M can find out where the hell you are. But your family back home, just tell them. When you start out in the morning, I always talk to my wife on her way to work, and I'd say, okay, I'm headed for such and such. This is the road I'm planning on taking. If for something happens, I may take this one. But then when I stopped at the end of the day, I'd let her know where I was. And back a long time ago, now, again, I maybe overthink this, but I didn't want the whole world to know that I'm not home, that my wife's out at the cabin in Tennessee in the middle of nowhere by herself with a bunch of dogs. Mm-hmm. So to let her know if I was in a situation where I didn't have a cell phone signal or whatnot, I came up with this code that would be something to the effect of #TSI35MM193TA. And she knew exactly what that meant. She meant that I was in Texas on I-35, mile marker 193 at the Travel Centers of America.
Wow, that's an interesting little code that you guys came up with there. That would be, and you could send that out anywhere.
Yeah, you could put that on Facebook. Just put a stupid post on Facebook and then hashtag whatever. And if they click on it or try to call up, obviously it's not going to be a hashtag to anything or anybody, but that way anybody in my family that knew that code would know exactly where I stopped for the day.
Yeah, that's really, really smart, Denny. And also, you think about this, we never like to consider the absolute worst case scenario. But let's say absolute worst case scenario. Denny's
like the driver that was lost in, was it Iowa, that
Yes.
they found killed? Yeah,
exactly.
They would know where to look for me.
Yeah, maybe your satellite goes out in the truck. H&M doesn't know. Just the fact that you've told Dawn, I'm going to be headed from X to Y today. That's my plan, and I'm going to stop here. We got authorities out there looking for you, lickety-split, in that scenario, only because you told your wife what your plans for the day were. H&M knew your plans, but they lost you. This type of stuff doesn't happen often, but it can happen, and it's important to think about it. And that's, it's one of the reasons we have this podcast. Let's spend some time talking about this stuff.
Only one more thing on my little list.
Okay.
If the roads are slushy, you know what I'm talking about, where it's that wet snow ice nasty mix that's throwing up. Every time you stop, walk around and clear your lights and blinkers.
Yeah.
Because if you're turning on the blinker and it's covered in crap, nobody can see it. So enough said there.
That is very, very important to us here in the area of the Pacific Northwest I live in, because what we will get, Denny, is we'll get 3 hours of snow and then 6 days of rain to follow. And a lot of times that thick, wet snow immediately turns into very brown, very muddy slush. And it ends up, I don't know how it ends up on your lights like it does, but it will cover every single light on the exterior of your vehicle in a short amount of time. And Denny's right. You can't see when somebody's turning on that stuff, and they do it, say, on a highway and hit a little streak of that slush in the middle of the road. It could send them every which way. It's dangerous shit, and that's great advice. Clean your lights off. I think in the winter all along, if you're ever out of your truck or stopped at any given time, probably just walking 360 to make sure all that stuff is uncovered is a good idea, Denny.
Mm-hmm. And four-wheelers, turn on your damn lights.
Yeah, well, we could end every single episode of the H&M Trucking Podcast with that sentiment, Denny, and we still wouldn't move mountains like we think we should. But
I told you I'll never buy another gray car, right?
Yeah, because you can't see them in the rain.
That's right.
It's unbelievable how hard they are to see in the rain when you're driving on gray pavement. Who would have thunk it?
Well, with the spray coming up, they're invisible.
Yep.
Until they turn on the lights, you cannot see them.
If you are listening to this and you have anything you would like to add to Denny's list, head on over to the website, podcast.hmtrucking.com, and send me an email, because we will be talking about this as the winter moves through. I'm assuming we'll probably end up getting Dean Edmonds on here from safety at some point in time to talk a little bit about the safety aspect of it. We'll talk to all of you drivers and see what you're seeing out there as the weather starts to move down from the Great White North and mix in with the rest of what we've got going on here. Hurricane season is by and large kind of a warm thing. And I know that up in Minnesota right now, while they're bracing for another hurricane down in Georgia, in Minnesota, they're starting to bring the livestock in already. Like, we're getting to the point where it's going to be a cold bitch here before too awful long. And you want to make sure and take heed of the things that Denny said. Get yourself prepared before that weather hits, and then you won't find yourself stranded with nothing but a hoodie.
Yeah, that sucks. And hot dogs. Nothing but fucking hot dogs.
And hot dogs. Yeah, man, listen, if you had a can of SpaghettiOs in the truck, it might not be the best thing for you, and it might not taste the best, but anything will beat a roller hot dog after you've had 6 or 7 of them, right?
Hey, Hormel makes these meals you don't even have to refrigerate. And some of them are actually, I won't say good, but they're not bad. And in a pinch like this, that shelf life is great. I wouldn't eat them all the time, but to have 3 or 4 of those on the truck just in case you get stuck for a day or two, not a bad idea.
And if the roller is completely sold out, you can actually dump those Hormel meals on the roller, and eventually it will roll everything into hot dog shape. So you can just eat it like that if that's what you prefer. Listen,
kind of assuming just about everybody had a microwave in the truck by now.
Well, I was just assuming it would be fun to dump a whole meal on one of those hot dog rollers and see what happens.
Before I had a microwave in the truck, I had one of those little things you stick in a cup of coffee or a cup of water to heat it up so you could make coffee or tea.
Oh,
I tried to heat a can of chili with that thing one time, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and without great minds out here like Denny and I trying this stuff out, who would ever know, right? So... Well, appreciate all of that stuff, Denny. Great stuff there. Like I said, head on over to the website, podcast.hmtrucking.com. Send me an email if you've got anything to add to the list. We got to wrap this episode up and get out of here, so I'm going to say it to you. Stay fresh, cheese bags. Keep the shiny side up. Be safe out there. Watch out for Hurricane Milton coming through the south very soon. We'll see you all next week. For Denny, I'm Marcus. Later.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.